What if your most productive hours aren't what you think? Audiobook. It's 9 in the morning. You sit down with coffee and a blank document. The work matters. You know what needs to happen. But your brain feels like it's moving through wet concrete. Every sentence takes twice as long as it should. You check the time. Only 11 minutes have passed. You wonder what's wrong with you. Here's the truth. Nothing is wrong with you. You're just working at the wrong time. We've been lied to about productivity. Not intentionally, maybe, but lied to all the same. We're told that successful people wake up at 5, that the early morning is sacred, that if you can't focus before lunch, you lack discipline. So you set the alarm earlier, you fight through the fog, you try harder, and it still feels like dragging a boulder uphill. The problem isn't effort. It's not laziness. It's not even distraction. The problem is that you've been trying to override your biology with willpower, and willpower always loses that fight. Your brain has a rhythm, a natural cycle of energy, focus, and creativity that shifts throughout the day. Some people hit their cognitive peak at 7 in the morning. Others don't fully wake up until noon. Some do their best thinking at 11 at night. None of these patterns are better or worse. They're just different. But we don't treat them that way. We treat morning people like they've cracked the code. We treat night owls like they're broken. We build entire work cultures around a single schedule and then wonder why half the room looks exhausted by 10. You've probably spent years trying to force yourself into someone else's rhythm. You've felt the guilt of not being a morning person, the shame of needing the afternoon to think clearly, the frustration of finally feeling sharp at 8 p.m. when the day is already over. That frustration isn't feedback that you're doing something wrong. It's feedback that you're fighting against the way your mind actually works. And no amount of discipline will fix that. You can't hack your way out of your own nervous system. There's a name for this. Chronobiology researcher Roenneberg spent decades studying what he calls chronotypes, the internal biological clocks that determine when your body and brain naturally want to be awake, asleep, and operating at full capacity. His research at Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich showed that chronotypes are largely genetic. You don't choose to be a morning person or a night person any more than you choose your height. Your circadian rhythm, the 24-hour cycle that regulates sleep, hormone release, body temperature, and cognitive function is wired into you. Roenneberg identified what he calls social jet lag. It's the mismatch between your biological clock and the schedule society forces on you. When a natural night owl has to wake up at 6 every morning for work, they're essentially living in a different time zone than their own body. That's not a metaphor. The cognitive cost is real. Your brain doesn't perform the same way at all hours. Attention, memory, problem-solving, creativity, they all peak and dip in predictable waves. For early chronotypes, focus and analytical thinking tend to peak in the morning. For late chronotypes, that same sharpness often doesn't arrive until mid-afternoon or evening. This isn't about being lazy or undisciplined. It's neurochemistry. Cortisol, which helps you wake up and stay alert, rises and falls on a curve. So does adenosine, the molecule that builds up throughout the day and makes you feel tired. So does dopamine, which affects motivation and reward processing. If you try to do deep work when your cortisol is bottoming out and your adenosine is spiking, you're biochemically handicapped. You can push through it, but it will cost you more energy, take longer, and produce worse results than the exact same task done 2 hours earlier or later. The tragedy is that most people never figure this out. They spend their whole lives thinking they're bad at focus, or that they lack discipline, or that everyone else has some secret they're missing. They never realize they've just been working at the wrong time. You already know when you work best. You've just been taught to ignore it. Think about the last time you felt effortlessly focused. Not because you forced it, not because you used a technique, but because your brain was just ready. What time was it? Now think about the times you've stared at a screen for an hour and produced nothing. When every email felt like a puzzle. when even simple decisions felt exhausting. What time was it then? That's your map. You've been walking past it your whole life. Most people can feel the difference between high-energy hours and low-energy hours. They just don't take it seriously. They treat it like a preference instead of a biological fact. So they schedule important work whenever it fits the calendar, then wonder why some days feel impossible. Your energy is not evenly distributed. Your attention is not a constant resource. And your ability to think clearly, solve problems, and create something meaningful is not the same at 9 a.m. as it is at 3 p.m. or 9 p.m. Once you see that, you can't unsee it. You stop blaming yourself for struggling at the wrong time. You stop trying to be someone you're not. You start building your day around the rhythm that's already there. The best productivity system is the one that matches your biology, not the one that sounds impressive on paper. Here's what happens when you keep working against your rhythm. Everything takes longer and feels harder than it should. You sit down to write during a low-energy window. It takes you 2 hours to finish something that would have taken 30 minutes at your peak. You finish it, you check the box, but you've just spent 4 times the energy for half the quality. That's not productivity. That's punishment. And it compounds. Because you used up all that effort on a task you could have done easily at a different time, you have nothing left for the rest of the day. You're drained by noon. You skip the harder work. You tell yourself you'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow you do the same thing. This is how people burn out while getting very little done. Not because they're not working, but because they're working at the wrong time, in the wrong way, for the wrong reasons. There's also a psychological cost. When you consistently struggle with tasks that should be manageable, you start to internalize it. You begin to believe the problem is you, that you're slow, that you're not smart enough, that you don't have what it takes. None of that is true. You're just trying to run at full speed with the parking brake on. The people who look effortlessly productive aren't special. They've just figured out when their brain is ready to work and when it's not. They protect their peak hours. They use them for what matters. And they stop trying to be machines. You can work hard or you can work at the wrong time, but doing both is just self-destruction with a to-do list. So what does it look like to actually build your day around when you work best? First, you stop pretending all hours are equal. You identify your high-energy windows, usually 1 to 3 hours in a day when your brain is sharpest, and you guard them like they're worth something. Because they are. Those hours are for deep work, for writing, strategy, problem-solving, learning, creating. Anything that requires sustained attention and clear thinking. You don't waste them on email. You don't waste them on meetings that could have been a message. You don't give them away just because someone else sent a calendar invite. Your peak hours are the most valuable thing you own. Treat them that way. Then you look at your low-energy windows. The times when focus is hard and everything feels sluggish. Most people try to fight through these. That's the mistake. You're not supposed to do deep work during a dip. You're supposed to do shallow work. Shallow work is necessary, but it doesn't require peak cognition. Answering emails, scheduling, organizing files, prepping for tomorrow, cleaning your workspace. These things need to get done, and they're perfect for when your brain isn't firing on all cylinders. This isn't about working less, it's about working smarter, matching the task to the time. Stop trying to write a proposal at 4 p.m. if your brain is sharpest at 10 a.m. Stop forcing yourself to answer admin emails first thing in the morning if that's when you think best. When you align your tasks with your energy, 2 things happen. First, you get more done in less time. Second, it stops feeling like a fight. Work becomes easier, not because you're more disciplined, but because you're finally working with your biology instead of against it. Productivity isn't about doing more, it's about doing the right things at the right time. You don't need permission to work differently. But I'll say it anyway, you're allowed to build a schedule that actually fits you. You're allowed to do your best work at night if that's when you're sharpest. You're allowed to take the morning slow if your brain doesn't wake up until noon. You're allowed to ignore the people who say real work only happens before breakfast. The guilt you feel about not being a morning person, that's cultural, not biological. The shame about needing the afternoon to think clearly, that's learned, not real. You've been carrying someone else's schedule like it's a moral obligation. It's not. It's just a schedule. And it doesn't fit you. So stop wearing it. This doesn't mean you get to avoid hard things. It doesn't mean you only work when you feel like it. It means you take the hard things seriously enough to do them when your brain is actually ready. If you have control over your schedule, use it. If you don't, find the edges. Shift what you can. Protect one high-energy hour. Move one low-value task to a low-energy time. Small changes in alignment create massive changes in output. And if people question it, let them. You're not optimizing for their approval. You're optimizing for your results. Those two things are rarely the same. The only schedule that works is the one you can actually sustain, and sustainability starts with honoring the rhythm you already have. Here's what you do this week. Not forever. Just this week. Track your energy for 5 days. Keep a simple note on your phone. Every 2 hours, write down one number from 1 to 10. 1 means you're dragging. 10 means you're sharp and focused. Don't overthink it. Just note the time and the number. At the end of 5 days, look at the pattern. You'll see it. There will be windows where you're consistently high, and windows where you're consistently low. That's your map. Now take your hardest task, the one that requires the most focus, the thing you've been putting off or struggling with. Schedule it during your highest energy window, not when it's convenient, not when someone else wants to meet, when you're actually sharp. Then take 3 shallow tasks: emails, admin work, organizing, and move them to your lowest energy windows. The times when you're dragging anyway. Use that time for things that don't require deep thought. Do this for 1 week. Don't change anything else. Don't add a new habit. Don't try to optimize your sleep or your diet or your morning routine. Just move your tasks to match your energy. You'll notice the difference immediately. Not because you're working harder, but because for the first time, you're working when your brain is ready. This isn't a hack, it's alignment. And alignment is the only kind of productivity that lasts. It's 9 in the morning. You sit down with coffee and a blank document. But this time, you don't. Because you've learned that 9 in the morning is when your brain is still waking up. So instead, you answer 3 emails. You tidy your desk. You prep your notes for later. At 11:30, when your energy peaks, you open the document. The words come easily. Your thoughts are clear. You finish in 40 minutes what used to take 2 hours. Not because you got smarter, but because you finally stopped fighting yourself. You've spent enough time trying to be productive on someone else's schedule. It's time to build one that actually works. Not for everyone, just for you. That's not laziness. That's wisdom. And wisdom is knowing when to stop pushing and start listening. Your brain has been telling you the answer all along. All you had to do was pay attention.